5, car number 9, Goulburn's Fred Seary. From 6 is car number 10, Nick Girdlestone. From 7 is 7, Barry Blake of Western Australia. From 8, 55, George Elliott. From 9, car number 8, Ian Clarkson of Victoria. And from 10, car number 6, John Laws. Race, but unfortunately, into the fence yesterday. They've had some problems trying to repair the car in time. Cars moving on to the back straight now. Let's check out our pole sitter, Alan Grice, of course, the winner of the Bathurst 1000 back in 1986. A qualifier for both the 87 and 89 World 600 NASCAR Classic at Charlotte, North Carolina. And of course, in the recent Christmas NASCAR Open at Calder, he won 3. Picks up the pace as Barry Graham sits on the outside, coming in for the start. 25 laps of competition. Grice gets the jump. Boy, does he get the jump. Graham now picks up the pace on the inside. Moving up to a run with him, also Gene Cook of Tasmania in car number 11, and Robin Best on the outside. Into turn number 1, Girdlestone, car number 10, makes a very good start as Grice leads them onto the back straight for the first time. Liz Small has done wonders for the engine in the Grice car. It really is steaming away as they go down the back straight. Graham drops to the low side in the real McCoy Oldsmobile as they come off turn number 4, back through the tri-oval again. Graham hugging the inside, Grice electing to run out about mid-track, Cook in behind them, and Fred Seary doing a good job in car number 9, the second of the Commodores in the field. Jimmy Richards certainly with a job to do here, starting off the back row. But Grice is clear. Let's listen to the V8 howl, the Commodore, as it sweeps down into turn number 3.
This car's averaging 220 odd kilometres an hour, and you can really see the pace of these cars down the front straight. Grice the clear leader, Graham in second, but a good scrap on for the minor placings, and there it is, Fred Seary in the middle of the pack. He's third in the series so far. This is round 4. $240,000 in total prize money up for grabs in this class today. The winner taking $30,000, $18,000 for second, $16,000 for third, and a payout all the way back to 25th, $8,000 apiece.
It's not too shabby. Turn 4 again, back through the tri-oval. Grice and the Valvoline Commodore skipping away from Barry Graham in car number 2. And Gene Cook of Tasmania. Robin Best on the inside, back behind them in car number 88, just dropping Fred Seary back 1 spot. And the short trackers, Barry Graham, Gene Cook, all past winners of the Marlborough Grand National. Here's Graham lining up Grice here on the inside. And gets through, and Cook now going for the run as well. Grice had some problems yesterday with the machine, but seemed quite comfortable this morning. He elects to stay on the outside as Graham closes it up, and Gene Cook tried to get into the draft of Graham. Now elects to sit in Grice's draft on the outside. Best is the next one back behind them, and Fred Seary in car number 9. Grice very deep into that turn, into turn number 1. Graham now finds that Robin Best has closed up behind him. So too Gene Cook. Ian Clarkson of Victoria sitting back behind them. He won't get even a wisp of any draft, and very much sideways that time was Gene Cook in car number 11 as they came off the turn.
That was a pretty good save, because it looked for a minute as though he might have had a big lose there. Grice is very, very good, very competent, super professional at NASCAR racing, isn't he, Mike? He's had some runs in the States, and I know he's been working pretty hard to try and come up with a package that would put him in the American NASCAR scene on a more regular basis.
I think he'd like to do a lot more racing overseas, but you need to put a team together, and over there the top teams are all running with $6 and $7 million budgets, and they've got a waiting list of about 200 per team for those who want to sign on and be race car drivers. To convince anyone that you've got the talent to do it, and you say your past history of winning on road courses really doesn't cut too much with them. Fred Seary coming up on the inside of Tasmanian Robin Best. They're having a great scrap for 4th place as they come off towards the tri-oval again. Graham a little closer this time in the real McCoy Bourbon Oldsmobile. That's the dice that we were mentioning, with Fred Seary on the inside and Robin Best of Tasmania. They really do make a racket here. I think the Sydney State Pollution boys have a field day down here because the cars are running in the same NASCAR trim, and that means very little in the way of silencers. That is very obvious. But the fans love it, and Grice leads them across the strike with Graham in hot pursuit. Graham and George Elliott, of course, putting together a Nascar driving school for those people interested in getting into this form of racing. And they've already had one school down here involving about 150 people. And the second school takes place this weekend. So obviously there's a lot of people ready to dip their toe into NASCAR racing.
There's Jim Richards coming up through the pack. And he's back in about 9th at the moment, I think.
It's going to be pretty hard for Jim
10th
to break clear of that. He's behind Girdlestone, Barry Blake and the Sheraton Hotel entry. As we pick up on the leaders heading down into turn number 2. Jimmy Richards, not the best weekend for Jim, as we mentioned. Some problems yesterday with the EA Falcon, putting that into the wall as something snapped. And it took him for a pretty wild ride.
Lap 10 of 25. Alan Grice, the leader, from Barry Graham. Then Robin Best, Fred Seary. Gene Cook, the next man.
Bruce McAvaney on Sports World that you need everything to be 99% right in a NASCAR. 95% okay in a Tourer, but in these things they are just awful unless you've got the car doing everything that it should be doing and 90% spot on. And Best of Tasmania. I think Graham might have his hands full here with Gene Cook of Tasmania, who has really started to put the pressure on Barry. They move on to the back straight. But Grice certainly has absolutely everything going for him in the grunt department of the Commodore. It's just pulling out of the corners much better than Barry Graham's car. Of course, Alan brought over Bob Rahilly from the Raymog team in December, who brought a Super Trick engine with him, and there wasn't anything that could sit with that combination, and helped Les Small set the car up, and both Small and Grice have done a great job with it.
Nothing.
Down the back straight for the final time. Best closes up behind Graham, and Graham has not dropped out of the slipstream of Alan Grice. Last corner coming up, 4th turn, down through the tri-oval and the checkered flag. About to wave as Graham snicks down the inside, but just couldn't pull it off. Alan Grice will get the win over Sydney's Barry Graham and Tasmania. 2nd place going to Barry Graham, 3rd to Robin Best of Tasmania, 4th to Fred Seary of Goulburn, and rounding it in the pace car now pulls into the pit area, and we're about to go racing with Alan Grice looking for 2 out of 2 here today. Green flag is out. But it'll be Graham and Grice side by side coming down for the start, and Grice marginally getting the jump. Graham electing to run the high side as they go down into turn number 1. And look at the wall of cars just back behind them. Fred Seary, a very good start, and he'll start out and around them looking for a challenge as they move onto the back straight, but it's Grice clear in the Valvoline Commodore.
I noticed that Grice is doing a lot of sliding at the moment, running very, very wide, and that's going to give Barry Graham the incentive he needs. The carrot has been dangled, and he's taking a bite of it.
Yes, he's just never stopped pushing Alan Grice. Grice is running at his pace, but Graham is running about the same pace that he started the race, and he's now door handle to door handle with Alan Grice, so the real McCoy Kentucky Bourbon car on the inside of Alan Grice's Valvoline Commodore as they head once again back up into turn number 3. And Graham has got the car sticking to the racetrack on the low line too. He hasn't moved out of there. Grice running up by the wall. Ian Clarkson of Victoria Pitts in the number 8 car. Problems for that team. As we watch this fascinating scrap between one of the best and polished touring car racers in recent years, Alan Grice, with Barry Graham, a short track speedway expert, working hard at trying to haul the car down on the low line and make Grice race round the outside of him. And Grice, there's not too much between the wall and Grice when they come down through the tri-oval.
It's about 3 thou. They're starting to move ever closer to the back of Terry Byers. 0.1 of a second according to the computer. That's the gap we're looking at on screen at the moment.
Pit stop coming up for Gene Cook of Tasmania in car number 11. So Cook goes into the pits.
Which moves Jim Richards to 7th.
Cookie in any sort of equipment. We saw him at his best last weekend at Amaroo Park as we watched the pit stop. between the Gene Cook crew over there, car number 11. Not the time to want to pit in the middle of green flag racing laps where you can go down 3 laps ever so quickly. Alan Grice almost clipped the wall that time out. He was so wide. Graham just sits again. Tortoise and the hare.
Yes, got a feeling this one's going to go all the way to the flag.
Just look at them now as they come onto the back straight. Grice again.
I don't think that Grice is going to be able to get away. 37 of 50 we've done.
Well, it's obvious his car's got a little more grunt than Graham's car.
An edge. That's all it is.
But it's wandering in the turns just a touch, and that's where Graham is making it up purely through handling.
Through a tenth of a second is vital, isn't it?
Well, this style of racing overseas, there'll be another 27 drivers in there, spread out over the next second.
Brad Jones said something that was very true earlier on about the conditions, the weather conditions, and wind direction and temperature, and just today, when you just look around, 3 and 4, there he is.
He's managed to move off the circuit down onto the grass area, so I don't think he's in harm's way there. The lap's running out.
They haven't pulled the yellow, I don't think.
No, they haven't. I think Fred is parked on the apron road, so there's no real reason for him.
That's bad news for his points position. He just got out of shape, slid up high and tapped the wall.
There it is. As you can see, Fred Siri hooking the front back round of the wall and then sliding down the bank out of harm's way before anyone else arrived to be part of his accident.
Lap 40 of 50, round 4.
So 10 to go. Alan Grice with that Buick as they head down to turn number 1. Working the pits for said Fred Siri's car. Trying to belt out the paddle work. Make sure it's not rubbing up against the tyre. The costly whack in the wall for Fred Siri that's going to drop him down. He already dropped down to 10th, so there's not going to be too many points coming his way.
Mind you, if he can stay out there, there's certainly money to be had. Notice that these cars don't have the inboard jacking systems.
No.
Like number of subtle variations in the rules.
Oh, Barry Graham got very... poked the nose of his car down on the inside of Grice that time. And the thing broke loose on him. He caught it back up now. The problem he's got is that Robin Best...
But it looks very unstable in the turns. Now we've got Best up on the outside and squeezes through to second. There's definitely something bizarre happening with car number 2. Just looks untidy through its...
Yeah, and he hasn't even made an attempt to get quickly past Terry Byers at this stage, so he's running to finish. Bad luck there for Barry Graham, because he really had made life maybe interesting for Alan Grice and made our telecast interesting of the race.
I reckon he might have a deflating tyre, or he's got one that's blistering, something of that nature. He'd be well advised at this late stage of the game to probably hang out there, although he's pulled to the low line. I think he's going to make a pit stop.
I think he's more safety first, Barry, with about 5 laps to go. That is rotten luck. And it's probably the right call on a... That'll move George Elliott, Barry Graham's team partner, up into 3rd place in car number 55, the second of the...
They're not looking around the rubber area, so that's a false start, Mr. Crompton. They must have some other problem somewhere along the line.
I couldn't believe that
they've got in the boot or trunk area of this car. Maybe that's where the fuel pumps are positioned, or which is often the case. There's a lot of work going on at the back of the car. If you have a look in there, you can see that's where they've got their entire fuel system and pumps, and maybe they've got an intermittent problem there with a fuel pump or something like that.
About 2 laps to go in the Nascar 50 for the Moomba Cup at Calder Park Thunderdome.
Look at all the garbage on the back of the car there, Mike. There's
Alan Grice going down the back straight. We've got real dramas because not only is Alan Grice, but Robin Best from Tasmania is coming on like you couldn't believe. Now, whether or not they are all running low on fuel, I'm not sure, but Grice has eased the pace up. They're coming in with 1 lap to go, and Robin Best is all over Grice. Grice has just tapped the wall, and now it's Best down on the inside, running it side by side. This will be the moment of truth as they head down to turn number 1. And Best will go through. Grice will not like that. He will try and stick on the outside of him, but Best immediately comes up the racetrack. They work the back straight, and Grice is out against the wall. They are on their last lap. What a thriller of a finish as Grice will tuck down low and try and get him back again under brakes. Now he's caught him 1 out. Now whether Best can carry on all the way to the flag. Grice has got it poked down the inside of him, but Best is coming off the corner. Best, and it'll be the Tasmanian. The last lap, the crowd's gone wild with this one. Best wins it from Alan Grice. What a finish.
In the earlier heat.
So Robin Best coming down to victory lane. Sensational finish to the Nascar 50 at Calder Park Thunderdome. Let's cap them out for you. Check who actually won. We know who won on our Shell race score. It was Robin Best. Alan Grice.